Power, rage, perfection. Naomi Campbell has been called the most beautiful woman in the world and the most dangerous. She's walked for every major designer on Earth and walked out of more courtrooms than most supermodels can name. She didn't just change fashion, she weaponized it. Phones thrown, assistants shaken, charity scandals, blood diamonds, tabloids on fire. But here's the uncomfortable truth fashion rarely admits. Naomi wasn't born a villain. She was made by an industry that demanded attitude and then punished her for having too much. They wanted fierce. They got it. And then they screamed when it stared back at them. She was the first Black supermodel to dominate a white world. And for every door she kicked open, there was a whisper. She's difficult. Naomi didn't shrink herself. She sharpened herself. And in doing so, she became something rare, a woman you couldn't control. So you learned to fear her. Was it ego or survival? Was she out of line or finally drawing one? Today, we unravel the story of a girl raised on rejection who turned pain into armor and became the most feared woman in fashion. Was she broken by the system, or did she learn to break it first? You'll decide by the end. Naomi Elaine Campbell was born in Streatham, South London in 1970. But her real birth? That came later, when she decided the world would never ignore her again. Her father left before she was born. She never met him. Not once. That absence would define everything. Her mother, Valerie Morris, was a dancer, elegant, relentless, often away on tour. Naomi spent much of her childhood in the care of relatives or family friends. She learned early, if you want attention, earn it. If you want love, don't wait for it. She studied ballet, theater, movement. Not because she wanted the spotlight, but because it gave her control. Control over how she entered a room, control over how long people looked. Still, rejection followed her everywhere. At school, she was bullied for her skin, her height, her name. Kids threw rocks. One boy punched her in the stomach. "I hit back," she later said. "That was my instinct." That instinct, to fight before you're crushed, never left her. At 15, she was window shopping in Covent Garden when a modeling scout approached her. Most girls would have hesitated. Naomi didn't. But make no mistake, this wasn't a fairy tale discovery. This was 1985. Fashion had a quota for Black girls, and it was usually one. Maybe. But Naomi wasn't there to ask for permission. She was there to take up space. She booked her first shoot within weeks. Her first cover, not long after. And by 17, she was walking for Versace. But still, there were rules. Don't complain. Don't demand. Be grateful you're here. Naomi didn't follow those rules. She rewrote them. Because deep down, the little girl who'd been left behind, overlooked, underestimated, was still inside her. But now, she had heels, and contracts, and a walk that could silence a room. The world had tried to ignore Naomi Campbell. It would never make that mistake again. By the late 1980s, fashion was having a moment, and Naomi Campbell was about to steal it. She didn't rise. She arrived. Front row, dead center, eyes locked. You didn't look at Naomi. Naomi looked at you. She walked for Azzedine Alaïa, Yves Saint Laurent, Chanel, Versace. She wasn't a token anymore. She was a threat, and no one could look away. Her walk, iconic. Long, gliding strides with a whip-crack rhythm. Chin high, shoulders back, eyes fixed like a sniper. Photographer Mario Testino once said, "She didn't walk down the runway. She attacked it." But Naomi's rise wasn't just about power. It was about proof, because every step she took was a rebuttal. To editors who said Black girls didn't sell covers. To casting directors who called her too aggressive. To designers who treated her like a seasonal trend. I had to become someone they couldn't ignore, Naomi later said. If they wouldn't love me, they would fear me. And they did. By 1989, she became the first Black woman on the cover of Vogue Paris. Not because the industry suddenly got enlightened, but because Naomi forced them to change their lens. Still, nothing came free. Behind every triumphant step was a fight for equal pay, for basic respect, for the right to be more than the black one. She was often the only woman of color in a room full of white faces, and when she asked why, she was labeled difficult. When she demanded the same rate as her white peers, they called her entitled. But Naomi didn't flinch. She didn't soften her voice. She didn't apologize for taking up space. Other models tried to mimic her walk. None could. Linda Evangelista once said, "We all tried to walk like Naomi. Nobody could." Because Naomi didn't just walk, she warned. By the 90s, she was untouchable. Not just a supermodel, the supermodel. A founding member of the Big Five with Linda, Christy, Cindy, and Claudia. But unlike the others, Naomi carried the weight of race on her back. Every photo, every job, every missed opportunity laced with expectation. And while others were loved, Naomi was watched, scrutinized, feared. Her face was on Time, Elle, ID, Harper's Bazaar. She starred in music videos, dated movie stars, walked for legends. She turned the runway into a warpath and won. But power, when it's hard-earned, doesn't always come out soft. The girl who'd been punched in the stomach in school was now standing at the top of the fashion world, with clenched fists of her own. Power gave Naomi Campbell a voice. But over time, that voice turned sharp, and sometimes violent. The stories started small. An assistant left, a phone went missing, a makeup artist swore she'd never work with her again. Then came the headlines: assault, rehab community service, in a Dolce & Gabbana gown. Naomi Campbell was no longer just fashion's queen, she was its cautionary tale. In 1998, she admitted to attacking her assistant, grabbing her by the throat and shaking her in a fit of rage. In 2006, she threw a BlackBerry at her housekeeper over a missing pair of jeans. In 2008, she assaulted 2 police officers at Heathrow Airport over a lost suitcase. The pattern was the same: explosion, apology, silence. Then another explosion. Rehab didn't erase it. Interviews didn't explain it. Community service only made it more surreal. She showed up to clean a New York sanitation garage in heels and couture. Witnesses said it looked more like a Vogue editorial than a sentence. It was brilliant. Or tone-deaf? Maybe both. And still, she was never canceled. Campaigns kept coming. Designers still booked her. The fashion world seemed to excuse the violence the way it excused genius. But behind the glamour, something darker was brewing. Naomi later admitted, "Cocaine made me paranoid, violent. I lost control." And yet, it wasn't just drugs. It was everything. Years of carrying the weight of being the first, of fighting battles other models never had to think about, of being called too angry when she simply asked to be paid what she was worth. All that fury, all that armor, eventually, it turned inward. She clashed with other models: Tyra Banks, Linda Evangelista, Christy Turlington. Some feuds were public, others whispered about in dressing rooms, under breath. Tyra later cried on Oprah, recalling how Naomi made her feel like she didn't belong. Was it cruelty? Or competition in a world that barely had space for one black woman at the top? Naomi didn't deny it. She said simply, "I felt threatened. I wasn't going to give up my seat. I'd fought too hard for it." Then came the scandal she couldn't walk away from. Fashion for Relief, her charity, was investigated. £5 million raised. Less than 9% reached the causes it promised to help. The rest went to luxury travel, first-class hotels, and expenses labeled security. She was banned from running charities in the UK for 5 years. Her response? A vague statement, no apology, no ownership. The legend of Naomi, ruthless, glamorous, untouchable, was starting to crack. And yet, she remained. She walked Paris Fashion Week, graced Vogue covers, launched collaborations with luxury brands. Because Naomi's power was never just about fashion. It was about control. And even when that control turned toxic, the industry still fed it. The same system that punished her for being black, now protected her for being profitable. The woman who had once kicked open fashion's doors was now holding the keys, and no one dared ask if she still deserved them. She should have been done. Scandals, assaults, a charity under investigation. But Naomi Campbell didn't disappear. She evolved. By the 2010s, the world had changed, and Naomi, somehow, was still here, walking for Balmain, appearing on Vogue covers, launching skincare lines, sitting front row with Anna Wintour, untouched, unbothered, still Naomi. While other models faded, Naomi became something more than relevant. She became inevitable. She mentored new generations on the face, coached with brutal honesty, pushed models to their limits. She wasn't warm, she wasn't gentle, she was exacting. And to some, that made her toxic. To others, she was just telling the truth in an industry built on lies. The same runway she once had to fight her way onto, now bent around her. Younger Black models called her Mama Naomi, Jordan Dunn, Aduta Ketch, Leomi Anderson. All of them pointed to her as proof that survival was possible, and power could be inherited. Naomi had become a paradox, a mentor with a sharp tongue, a trailblazer with a history of harm, a woman who fought racism, and then became the gatekeeper others feared. In 2021, she became a mother, at 50, a move that stunned the public. But for Naomi, it made sense. She'd always done things her way, on her timeline, without explanation. Yet even in motherhood, she didn't soften. She continued to speak out on representation, inequality, erasure. She reminded the world that she was the first, and that being first often meant bleeding for the ones who'd follow. But legacy is messy. The charity scandal didn't go away. The whispers never stopped. Some saw her as an icon, others as a cautionary tale. Naomi Campbell had become more than a model. She was now a mirror, reflecting all the beauty, brutality, ambition, and arrogance of an industry that made her, and that she remade in her own image. She once said, "I'm not going to let anyone write my story but me." And maybe that's exactly what she did. Not gracefully, not perfectly, but with force. The kind of force that makes an industry pay attention, even when it's terrified to look her in the eye. She wasn't built for forgiveness. She was built for survival. Naomi Campbell didn't play the victim. She played the system, better than anyone expected her to. And when it broke her, she broke it back. She forced fashion to look at itself, then punished it for looking too long. Was she cruel? Or just finally unafraid to be powerful in public? Was she unstable? Or simply human? After decades of being asked to be flawless while fighting for oxygen, here's what we know. Naomi Campbell changed everything. Not politely, not humbly, not cleanly, but permanently. She shattered ceilings that weren't meant to break. She opened doors no one was holding open, and then she slammed them shut behind her because she knew how fast they could be taken away. She's a woman made of contradiction, soft-spoken and savage, generous and terrifying, a legend and a warning. And maybe that's the legacy. Naomi Campbell didn't make it easy for anyone, not even herself. So now we ask you, was she broken by the industry, or was she always willing to break others just to survive it? Does the charity scandal ruin the legacy, or does it simply prove what fashion always knew, that power, in the wrong hands, will always be dressed in beauty? Drop your thoughts below. Tell us what Naomi means to you. The walk, the rage, the impact. Because no matter how you still feel something. And that's Naomi Campbell. Unforgiving, unapologetic, unforgettable.